how art thou this day? Art thou swell? Art thou happy? Art thou giddy? Are you quarantined, using social distancing with your fellow muses? And if so, does it bother you? Now, I really don't want to know if it bothers you or not, because I don't want to get into that conversation with you, Muse, because I have something else I want to talk about that might concern you. It's an anecdote that I want to share as a word of caution to all of my fellow writers out there, because last week something happened to me that I hope never happens to anyone else. And fortunately, I have the technical prowess to solve the problem. And it was a big one. It was as doozy as doozies get. Let me explain. So I use Google Drive for everything. I have a particular folder on Google Drive that houses all of my books and my creative work. And for years, I have used one or two different tools to sync that folder to my desktop. So I always have copies of everything, because I don't always trust the big G. And for years, this solution worked like a charm. So last weekend, I opened up the GIMP, which is what I use to edit all of my images. And I go to work on a piece of a marketing image for whatever. I don't remember what it was for, but it was a marketing image. Well, I open it up, I open up GIMP, and then I go to File, Open, and the file's not there. And I think, well, that's strange. The file's always there. So I open up my file manager, and I think, well, maybe it's just been misplaced or something. So I go to where the drive or the folder should be that syncs between my local drive and Google, and the folder's not there. And I think, well, maybe something happened with my sync tool and the folder's gone, but it's still on Google Drive, so it's no big deal. I can just have it resync it. So I open up Google Drive and the folder's not there. The folder is not on Google Drive and the folder's not on my local drive. Now, this folder had hundreds of subfolders. It contained every book I've ever written and the book that I am currently writing, of which I was about 90% done with. And it had the cover that I've been working on and all sorts of other things that I had to have. So needless to say, Muse, I had an absolute meltdown. The meltdown of meltdowns. In fact, it was so bad, it made my wife sick to her stomach to hear. That's right. I'm usually a calm and collected person, and I lost it because I was facing down the barrel of 20 years of work gone. So here's what I did in case this happens to anyone. The first thing was I went to Google Drive, and then I went to trash. And lo and behold, that folder was not there. And I thought, how? How in the world did this folder just completely disappear, not only from Google Drive, but from trash? If it was deleted from Google Drive, it should be in the trash. Which, of course, led me to wonder, how did it get deleted? And I'll tell you about that bit of magic in a second. So I knew of a file name. Of course, I knew of many, many file names that were in that folder. So I typed that file name in the search bar while in the trash. And it showed up in the right column that it was moved to trash. So I clicked that and I said, show in folder. So it took me to it. And then I was able to see that the folder finally appeared in trash. So I immediately clicked on it and then said restore. So I go back to the the root of my Google Drive directory, and I saw that the folder was there. Yay, everything's okay now. So I click into that folder, and not all the subfolders are in there. There were like 5 or 10 of the subfolders, of which there should have been hundreds. So I find a link to Google support, and I get on chat with this Google support person, and they say that they can recover all of my files with exception. As long as the file was created by Google Drive or uploaded to Google Drive by me, they could restore it. And I said, well, hold on just a second. Because as I was chatting with the person, I noticed out of the side of my vision that another folder had appeared in that folder. Another subfolder appeared. So I asked the person, I said, how long will it take for about roughly 100 gigs of data to be restored from trash? And they said about 72 hours. So I said, okay, I don't want you to restore anything. I want to wait to see if all of this stuff restores itself. And if it doesn't, then I'll come back to you. And they said, that's fine. So after a few hours, I went back and noticed that everything had returned. Everything was okay. I had all of my data. I could breathe again. And then, of course, I started wondering, why did this happen? It has never happened before. Why? Well, the tool that I had been using to sync Google Drive to my desktop stopped syncing. So I thought, that's not a problem. I'll just install the one I used to use. So I installed the one I used to use. And when I did that, I think they got confused with one another. And they deleted, between the two of them, they deleted not only the local folder, but the cloud folder. So when I figured that out, I said, okay, I'm totally uninstalled the one program and left the other one on. Well, the other one would not work. I could not get it to work. It simply was broken. So I uninstalled that, and I thought, okay, I'll go back and install the old one and see if I can see if that'll work. So I installed that, and as soon as I installed it, I went back to Google Drive, and guess what? The folder was gone again. So I immediately went to trash. It was there. I restored it. Everything's fine. So I immediately then uninstalled the old tool. So I had no sync tools on my computer, which is not a good thing because I don't trust the big G to always have a copy of my folders. So I cobbled together a different tool. Now, understand that I know a lot about technology, and I use Linux as my operating system. So I installed a tool called rclone, R-C-L-O-N-E, which is a command line tool. And I set it up such that it worked with my Google Drive folder. It connected it. It was able to connect to it. And then what I did was I created 2 cron jobs. Cron jobs are, you set these jobs up such that they are automated tasks that run in the background. And I wrote a bash script. A bash script is a scripting language that you can run commands with, a bunch of commands from one single command. So I wrote a bash script that would run 2 different commands. One that would sync from Google Drive to my local drive, and one that would sync from my local drive to Google Drive. And then I created 2 cron jobs, one for the from and one for the to, and they all run. The first one runs at 10 o'clock every night, and the second one runs at midnight. And I tested it by throwing a new file in each, one in one folder, subfolder in the local drive, and one in a different subfolder in the cloud. I waited for the next day. They were there. Everything's working fine. But suffice it to say, last weekend, I was an absolute wreck. The first thing I thought of was I cannot rewrite Defying Gravity. I can't do it. I was already 70,000 words into that book, and there was no way I could recreate it. And I was thinking, am I going to have to give up on this book? Because of the way I write, I don't have an outline. I could have rewritten it, but it wouldn't have been the same book. So, fortunately, the story ended up okay. But the moral of the story is you've got to have backups of everything and have backups of your backups. That's what I have now. I have a synced folder from Google Drive, And then I have a backup of that I do manually. So whatever tool you use, whatever platform you use, make sure that you are backing up and make sure that it works. Don't just assume that it's working. Check it. Check it weekly and make sure that your backups are there. And now I also, on the book that I'm working on, I also back it up as a single file to another computer, just in case. Just in case. It was a nightmare. And I thought for sure that this book that I have cherished every second of the writing and am so proud of, I thought it was gone. And I thought it was going to be gone forever. So remember, writers and anyone, any artist that works with digital media, back up your work. Back it up. Back it up to as many different locales as you can. Because it could be just a single click away from vanishing. And now I'm almost done writing Defying Gravity. I would not be surprised if I didn't finish it sometime next week. And I cannot wait. Well, actually I can wait because I really don't want this one to end because I've had so much fun with it. I've enjoyed every second of writing this book. I don't want it to end, but I think I figured out how to turn it into a series, or at least write a second book on it. So there's that. Anyway, that's all I got, Muse. Sorry that I didn't have any tips for you to improve your writing process or anything like that, but this was important enough for me to convey to everyone out there. But regardless, Muse, you're still, you know what I'm going to say, you're still awesome.